Nigerian police say they've rescued 2 people who had been abducted in an attack on a U.S. embassy convoy. 7 people were killed in the ambush in the southeastern state of Anambra on Tuesday. The police say the suspects, who have not yet been charged, are helping with their investigations. Of the 7 people killed in the ambush, 3 were U.S. consulate workers and 4 were security agents escorting the convoy. All of them were Nigerian citizens, and the police say 2 members of the convoy are still missing. But the rescue within 72 hours of 2 of the U.S. Embassy staff is something of a record for a kidnap attack in Nigeria, and it comes after President Buhari, who has pledged to end Nigerian security crisis but failed to do so, said his government was committed to fishing out the culprits. And the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Washington was working with the Nigerian police to investigate the attack. But for many Nigerians who have had close shaves, been kidnapped or even died at the hands of criminals who roam the countryside, most have never seen justice. So, in a country where criminality has become a beast with 1,000 heads, how do you deal with this multi-pronged hydra? Well, let's go straight away to informed analysis that makes sense of what you've heard on this program so far. Tries to distill with some clarity Nigeria's topical political developments so you can see the full picture. And helping us with that, the journalist, political affairs commentator, and Arise News analyst, Dr. Constance Ikokwu, and we're also joined by Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, who's a current affairs analyst, professor of communications, and deputy Director of the School of Postgraduate Studies at Bayes University. Thank you very much indeed. I managed to get through that one. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we've had a problem with some of our equipment, and therefore we're not seeing any pictures. But that's okay. We'll listen to what you guys have to say and make up our minds after that. Let me start with you, Constance. What is your reaction to that attack?
Well, it is an unfortunate incident that happened. The good news, as you mentioned earlier, is that 2 of the members of staff have been rescued. So the government is on top of it, and hopefully everything calms down. But it's really been a couple of years of assault. The country has been under assault by all sorts of criminal gangs and terrorists and insurgents, non-state actors, and all of that. And it's been very frustrating for Nigerians. The president hasn't risen up to the occasion during the last 8 years. He came in as president promising to do quite a bit of things. On this particular score, he has failed woefully. I think Nigerians would score him very low. Most times it seemed as if he was unaware of what was going on or totally helpless. He also seemed overwhelmed by the problems of the country generally, not only security-wise. But you would say when you ask for the job and you get it, then you have to do the job. For Anambra particularly, they've had this issue of unknown gunmen. I don't even know who came up with that term. It's ridiculous because, yes, gunmen are unknown, but you find them, you chase them, find them, and then let them bear the consequences. Anyway, they've been having this problem in the state. The current governor, Chukwuma Soludo, has been in power a little over a year. And I would say that he can learn a lot from his predecessors. The immediate past one, former Governor Willie Obiano, and then there was Peter Obi. Peter Obi particularly was fantastic when it came to security because they've been having security challenges for a while. He literally ran criminal gangs out of town in that state. And it's because he came up with a plan. and he worked in synergy with the Inspector General of Police. We know that security is centralized in Nigeria. That itself has its problems. But as the chief security officer of your state, you have to find a way around it. And that's exactly what he did, with the Commission of Police. And security was heavily funded. You need funds to do this, buying equipment for the police officers, giving them allowances, communications, gadgets, and all sorts of things. And the police officers themselves became driven to work in synergy with traditional rulers, vigilante groups, and they did quite a bit. So he can learn a lot, and hopefully he can rein in the situation.
Right. Okay, Prof. Let me come to you there, because in this particular instance, I mean, obviously a brazen attack, a bloody one as well. But in this particular instance, we've heard from the police today, it happened on Tuesday, today is Friday, they've freed 2 of the people who were kidnapped, and they've apparently picked up some suspects. In that context, what is your assessment of the efforts by the Nigerian authorities to try to stop these types of attacks from happening, attacks that, from all indications, appear to be increasing in frequency and brutality?
Yeah. But first, I think it's important, Charles, to commiserate with the families of those who lost their lives. Most of the time when this kind of thing happens, we just hear a certain number of people have been killed or have died, have been victimized in the process, but we'll never get to hear about the after effects on their families. It's important for us to sympathize with them, so that we can show that we're a system that has a feeling. And having said that as well, we also should expect that when we have criminals, who are very vociferous like this, who are very dieharded like this, at some point in time they'll become indiscriminate of who they want to attack. It's even possible that they probably didn't even know the identity of the convoy they were attacking. They were just indiscriminate, and because they were adventurous, and very, very adventurous, and that's what we expect when people are this determined. But the point has also been made severally that beyond the overt causes, beyond the overt outward reflection of this criminality, is the need for us to also look at the coverts, the subterranean reasons for the causes of the crisis. It's been perennial, and it seems that it's not going away. The unknown government are still unknown. They look determined, and whatever it's actually pushing them is something that we need government or the authorities to begin to engage with, to begin to introspect over. And this can be done in different ways. Some kind of engagement. How do you do this engagement? Of course, we know they are human beings. They are not spirits. Some of these people coming from police investigation, they can get to know, especially from those of them that have been arrested. They can know their families. They can try to dig into the kind of orientation they bear, their worldview over the years, and their recent political leaning in the previous time that can be in reference. All those things can be put together to gather some kind of information that can be processed towards intelligence and actually know the root cause of this problem. But our outward suspicion is that they are ethnic nationalists, concerned about their nationality, the marginalization or the psychological or physical marginalization of their people, separatists, if you want to put it that way. Those things have to be dealt with, and it's part of the question of nation building, which can be very systemic, which can be very processual, but very engaging, and of course requires that authorities are equally painstaking. That's one leg of it. The other leg of it is to deal with it physically, which we've been trying to do, which we have not succeeded. And I've made this point severally, that it is very easy for you to deal with the one that is in front of you and that is against you. But the one that is around you, that is against you, that you do not see, is very, very difficult to deal with. And that's why the security talk about asymmetrical warfare. The one that use scorched-earth guerrilla tactics that strikes at the time that you least expect. How much effort have we made, to reorientate our security agencies towards dealing with these surprise, this level of enmity that has grown up in our system, reflected as non-state actors that are increasingly becoming dangerous and threatening, our humanity.
Right.
Humanity in all shades of it, our economics, our politics, our culture, and our togetherness, as the case could be. But I think that, it is not beyond us to deal with, because they are hiding. We are the ones that are legitimately moving around. So if they are hiding, it means that, they know that something is amiss,
right.
and if they get caught, they will be in trouble. So we have the upper hand, but again, we have to up the ante, which falls once more in the hands somewhat of the incoming administration.
Well, let me, you made quite a number of points there. The one thing we know, Constance, is that nobody has come out and claimed responsibility for that attack specifically. And what often happens is that the authorities just say, oh, well, it's IPOB. Whereas, there are other people who are sort of in the mix, criminal organizations and so on. So with that in mind, what sense do you get of how dangerous the southeast region of Nigeria is now, both for local people and for foreigners? Because it is now seen as a region plagued by violence, violence generally, as well as a separatist insurgency.
Well, I spoke to a couple of people this afternoon just to get a sense of what's going on ground. We are here in Abuja, so we are talking to different people to understand how terrible or frightening the situation is. What I hear is that, yes, it is a challenge, but it is not as bad as it's been portrayed, because when you have news, especially on television, it's often, seen as a very, very massive problem. Yes, it is, but it's not that terrible. They tell me, my sources tell me.
Well, we heard the guy from Imo State earlier who was saying, although he's making a political sort of statement, but he was suggesting that, things have calmed down a lot. Yes,
I have people that go to the southeast regularly. Yes, there is fear here and there. People are advised, okay, do not drive a very flashy car. Stay calm, stay undercover, don't expose yourself too much. But life is going on. It is true that this kind of news discourages people. It also brings about some kind of fear. It is not good for business at all. Neither is it good for the quality of life. You want people to be able to drive into your state if they have to, or pass through your state if they want to. So you have to get on top of the situation, which is what a lot of stakeholders in the state are discussing with the governor of that state, Governor Chukwuma Soludo, telling him that he really needs to get a plan together quickly, working with different aspects of security agencies, whether it's police, whether it's the military, whether it's the NDLEA. Then there are the vigilante groups also. The vigilante groups for so many years have proved to be very useful to security agencies because they are the local people. When you come to the villages, for instance, people know who is coming in and who is going out. Some of these attacks have been also said to come from foreigner people that come from other states that come in, commit the attack, and they run out. So because the security agencies may take time to come in, to arrest them, they're able to disappear. So while it is a problem that needs to be tackled, life is going on as usual. Of course, in Nigeria, there's a heat, and people die, and the next day we forget about it and we move on, which shouldn't be. The point to make, though, is that the leader matters. The leader has to take this on very seriously because security affects every aspect of life. So you have different states in Nigeria that have faced different sorts of problems, and governors have handled it in different ways. You can compare notes with your counterparts, with your colleagues from other states. Also, because police is centralized, you need to have a very good relationship with the Inspector General of Police. You need to have very good relationship with the Army, for instance. These are people that are useful, or agencies that are very useful, to tackle the problem in your state when it occurs. But you need to have a plan that should be implemented. It shouldn't be sporadic. Sporadic doesn't work at all, as we have seen. So it needs to be a plan that you implement, methodically over a period of time. It can be done. it can be done, and if a governor that is serious can do it.
Okay, well, Prof, we heard from the United States, and it's quite extraordinary that once it involved the Americans, within a few hours, I mean, it got the attention of the US Secretary of State. And to some extent, some people have suggested that if this is IPOB motivated, as opposed to just a regular sort of attack, I mean, kidnap attack, not that it makes it any better, but if it's got that political ideology behind it, and they've seen that they've got the attention of the US Secretary of State within a few hours, that might be an incentive to do it again, assuming they knew that that was an American US Embassy convoy. But beyond that, the US also said it was working with Nigerian security services to investigate the attack. What would be, in your assessment, the extent of US involvement in that investigation? And is it likely to be more muted because no US citizens were in the convoy?
Yeah, I think I want to go with your last word, and there's going to be it's going to be muted. They're going to be quiet about it, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be effective. You know, here we're talking about one of the most sophisticated nations on planet Earth in many regards, irrespective of their own challenges too. You know, and of course, you see how priced they hold the average U.S. citizen. You see,
but I mean, there were no U.S. citizens.
No, I'm just
the first thing they said.
No, that's fine. I'm just
no American citizens.
No, that's fine. I'm just.
So let's all relax.
I'm giving the background.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. You see how priced they hold.
Yeah.
Their citizens. It doesn't matter what the citizen is going through in any part of the world. You know, they'll pull all these stops. You know, go for broke.
That is true.
To rescue that citizen. So again, you can also extend that whenever their interest is affected, they don't joke with it. And you can expect that when it is in a developing country, they ordinarily will have the upper hand in their ability to deal with it. You know, whether dealing with state actors or non-state actors. And you can expect that if it's a direct attack, deliberate attack, if the attackers actually knew that it was a U.S. convoy, you know, and they deliberately they really had gone after them, you can expect the U.S. authority to respond in more direct ways. But I don't want to believe that that was the case, really. Just like we said, they were probably indiscriminate. And
yes.
I also want to believe that our own authorities, ordinarily, sometimes they do respond commendably, but in this instance, you can expect that they are responding much more quickly because foreign interest, a critical foreign interest is involved. We may not be able to rule that out. So if we have a combination of those elements, of those lines of zeal, you know, conflicting, coming together, we should begin to look at a solution at some point in the future. Because, like I said, these fellows are not spirits, you know. They are human beings, they reason, and of course they have lines of supply, you know. Who is giving them these weapons, you know? Who is funding them, you know?
Yeah.
Who is,
so there's a footprint that can be traced.
That can be traced.
That's a good point.
And if we are genuine about it, if the agencies are actually genuine about it, all hands are on deck, there's no fragmented patriotism across levels of citizenry. In no time they'll be taken out.
Prof, I want to thank you very much indeed for joining us on this pictureless production. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is a current affairs analyst, professor of communications, and deputy dean of the School of Postgraduate Studies at Bayes University. And Constance, thank you very much indeed. Dr. Constance Ikokwu is a journalist, political affairs commentator, and a Rise News analyst. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again next week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.